being here and allowing us to record this for those individuals who are not able to make it today. But we are super excited to be hosting our very first Connect and Access. This is our monthly webinar, the fourth Thursday of every month. And we're thrilled to have you join us in this collaborative space designed specifically for educators that we are working with throughout the technical assistance piece. We're going to have state system of support partners from across the state joining us. So we are super excited to really foster connections, share resources, and really offer that support as we are all working towards those educational outcomes, those positive outcomes for students. So in this space, it's a space to exchange ideas. We're seeking advice from each other, hearing and learning about our diverse experiences from our colleagues throughout the state. So whether you're looking for some new strategies to implement or just hearing what's going on out there, you are in the right space. Connect and Access is the place for you. Zach Smith will be here shortly. He is joining us about 5 to 10 minutes late. He apologizes as he's finishing up, I think, in fact, presenting on this somewhere out in the state and needed just a few minutes to transition to our meeting. So we're going to learn all about the inclusive access to a diploma initiative happening in California. And Zach will be on the call here to share and answer all questions. So my name is Lori Balsano Wright, and I am a coordinator with the Open Access Project. We are coming to you from the Placer County Office of Education and Placer County SELPA. The other coordinator on the project, she's actually traveling from Santa Barbara right now, Leah. So she's delivered some training yesterday and is on her way back up to Placer County. She'll be here on the next call. Chara Perry from the CSIP, or California Collaborative for Inclusive Practices, may be joining us today too, as well, as she is partnering with us in providing this opportunity for all of you. I'm going to take a moment to introduce Zach once he gets on the call. So I will pause on my notes for Zach there. Come back to that. But here at Open Access, before we dive in, I just want to make sure that everybody has access to our slide deck. So I'm actually going to put that in the chat right now. Give me just a second to do that. Want to make sure, let me grab it in the chat. Make sure that everybody has access to our rolling slide deck that we are using to present with today. Let me get back into, let me know if that worked for you in the chat. So we're committed to following the principles of accessibility and universal design for learning, and we want to make sure that all of our materials are accessible as possible. So we have a few things embedded in our presentation today. Simple backgrounds with high contrast text. We have that QR code, which will take you to the slide deck, as well as that shortened link that I just put in the chat. We have alt text for images, and we're going to have lots of opportunities and options for you to participate and give feedback. So please feel free to unmute, drop things in the chat as we are moving throughout our hour together. Wanted to take just a few minutes to share about Open Access. So Open Access is a statewide special education resource lead within the statewide system of support. And we are grounded in the foundational belief that with access to quality curriculum and instruction, students with disabilities can engage, actively participate, and learn within inclusive settings. What makes our project unique is that we do highlight that learning and participation can happen for all students through universal design for learning, the use of assistive technology, as well as augmentative and alternative communication. So on this slide, there's a link to our website, the image of our one-page Explore Open Access one-pager. You can click on that. There's a link that will take you to that one-pager that really outlines our tiered approach to supporting LEAs, COEs, and SELPAs throughout the state. Real briefly, we have universal supports that include our website, as well as offerings and updates through social media that we share daily, if not weekly. Our targeted supports include training and coaching in the areas of universal design for learning, assistive technology, and augmentative alternative communication. That's a voluntary basis. You reach out to us, say that you want to really build that capacity in your district or county, and we are there to support you. And then we also provide intensive supports. We are a technical assistance provider for 22 LEAs throughout the state of California who have been identified through the CIM process, the Compliance and Improvement Monitoring process. So they have been connected with open access because of the items outlined in their action plan that are around inclusion and accessibility, universal design for learning, and those kinds of things. So our ultimate goal is to be establishing universal design for learning showcase sites throughout the state. We're also super excited as we're kind of broadened that lens this year, and we have an accessibility showcase site in regards to AAC. We're supporting some districts out in the Bay Area where they are building in AAC and will become a showcase site for implementation with Fidelity for that project. So we're excited about that. We always have our shameless plug about Stay Connected. We are on all 3 socials, as you can see there. And like I said, we do post regularly. Chara is not here yet, so I'm just going to have you take a peek at her flyer that she put on here for us. This is a collaboration with Project Muse, her project, the California Collaborative for Inclusive Practices, and it looks like the regional English learner specialists are also grouped in that, and they're presenting on, oh, I've got to let someone in the room, sorry, multitasking here. It looks like they have a hybrid event happening on Monday, November 4th. The location is at the Santa Clara County Office of Education, but it also looks like you can have the option to Zoom in for that as well. So this is about equity and systems improvement for multilingual students with exceptional needs. And Project Muse is really well-versed in that area. They are part of that statewide systems of support, supporting our duly identified English learners. We also have another opportunity, the 11th annual Inclusioners Inspire event. This again is a hybrid event, October 21st through the 23rd. I believe registration is still open for that. So Chara is really wanting anyone who's able to register for that. Please check it out. If you're available, share it with your staff, and hopefully you can join them. Zach should be here any minute. And so I'm just going to quickly walk through some slides here that are about the statewide system of support. So before we jump into that conversation with Zach about the inclusive pathway to a diploma, we wanted to take a moment to highlight some important information about the statewide system of support. So often people don't know what it is, they have not heard of it. So we're gonna give you some links to their website. On this slide is a link to their systemofsupport.org website. And really the principle behind the statewide system of support is creating that one cohesive system that serves all students, rather than these multiple kind of fragmented systems. And so this approach really helps with consistency and equity throughout the state, ensuring that every student has that same access to high quality educational opportunities. The leads behind the statewide system of support truly believe that a student's potential should not be defined by their label, whether that might be a disability, English learner status, or any other identifier. Furthermore, they feel as if no matter where that child lives within the state of California, that they have access to what they need to succeed in their educational journey. So the statewide system of support really works to eliminate those barriers, ensuring that all students have access. We've got a couple more people joining us. So this system is really designed to provide support that is coordinated and it's needs-based, ensuring that schools and districts really receive that assistance that is tailored to their specific challenge or need. It's differentiated according to their unique needs of their community, allowing for really specified and targeted interventions. So really at the heart of the statewide system of support is a commitment of a growth mindset. We're talking about continuous improvement, encouraging schools and districts to constantly reflect on their practices, learn from their experiences, and strive for better outcomes. So please check out this amazing resource on the systemofsupport.org. The next resource is provided by CCEE, the California Collaborative for Educational Excellence. And this is, again, in collaboration with the statewide system of support, and this is their resource hub. So with this tool, county offices and districts and schools and SELPAs and educational partners throughout the state, here comes Zach, perfect timing, throughout the state, really they're providing you with a wealth of resources that have been vetted by the leads on a lot of these initiatives. So with this system of support resource hub, you can search by, and you can see there, this is a screenshot of their website. You can search by initiative and student groups and state performance indicators and so forth. Welcome everyone. I've just got one more slide and then we're gonna hand it over to Zach, who just hopped on the call. Perfect timing, Zach. And then the last resource here is when you want to get connected to somebody within the statewide system of support, they have developed a very interactive directory for you. So again, you can search by agency, you can search by the person, you can search by the initiative, and it will drill down to a direct connection. So it will give you access to the website, which will put you in direct contact with the name behind the initiative, the name and the face there. So this again is a comprehensive tool for you to find the resource that you're looking for. Any questions about that? And thank you, Chara, for joining us, and Zach. And I know we've got a lot of people on the call today. Thank you for being here. So without further ado, I am going to introduce Zach. Zach, thank you so much for being here. It's my pleasure to introduce you. I'm going to just say a quick couple things about you and then hand it off. So Zach is a senior project director at West Ed, focusing on work related to special education policy and practice. Zach's interests are policy research and practice in the areas of inclusive teaching, learning, and leadership. And much of his work centers on the design principles of UDL and is grounded in schools, districts, and state education agencies, creating multi-tiered systems of support to provide an array of service offerings to their communities. Zach has worked across many levels of the educational ecosystem to cultivate more inclusive schools. He believes that by taking a comprehensive approach to school design, we can really highlight students' strengths and needs and centering on those the student-centered priorities, allowing for flexible and person-centered teaching and learning. Zach, you are a wealth of knowledge. We are ready to hear from you. I am ready to hand it over. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here with us today.
Oh, thanks, Lori. I was not expecting the lead up. I'm just sitting here, surprised. Good to see folks. Full disclosure, I am sitting outside because I had the same presentation for the SECO folks connected to county offices. So I'm outside of a Marriott somewhere in Sacramento. Please do let me know if the audio is terrible. Am I coming in okay?
You sound clear, Isabel, and we don't hear any kind of background noise from you. Do you
Okay.
want me to hand over the reins, or do you want to just let me know when to advance slide?
Oh, I can share my screen, and then
Perfect.
if we get jumbled, then I'll cry out for help.
Yep,
So,
absolutely. So I'm going to stop sharing so then you can share.
okay, great. Am I coming through okay? Can folks see that screen, the slides and stuff?
You are coming up. Yep, you're coming up right now. Perfect.
Okay, great. Well, hey everybody. My name is Zach Smith. Like Lori said, I work with WestEd, and I've been leading this initiative definitely with a team of folks on the content development side for the past. This is our second year, candidly, of working on this, and we're really in an exciting time. I see some familiar names and faces on the screens here, but we've been working on this for we're in a really fun time because it's a public comment period where we're trying to, at the base level, start to gather feedback and input on all of this content and all the drafts. So it's very much not baked, not set in stone, and we're trying to kind of take it on the road to get feedback on, how far off or helpful we see this information. So I'm just going to buzz through some slides here, but really, I think in a 45-minute time, answering questions and just being here to talk is probably our best bet. But let me get some baseline information out there. So, the California Department of Education, the California State Board of Education, were both our most salient partners connected to this work. Within CDE, it was funded and is sponsored and overseen by the Special Education Division. So that's where the dollar and legislative priority came from. That's where the dollars flowed. But from the beginning, we've had CFERD, the Curriculum, Framework, and Instructional Resources Division, and graduation at the table, helping us with the build out of this. And then State Board of Education has also been a monthly partner. So we meet monthly with these folks. We lay out, strategies and learnings, and then we take a step as they give us the clearance to take one. So it has been very much a slow and steady build on this, and so excited to be where we are. The goal of this presentation is really to get the word out. So we want to talk about the purpose, strategy, materials, and our feedback gathering structures. And real quick, how's the background? I mean, it's right now the leaf blower is going in my ear. So is it clear? Is
We can't
Zoom?
hear it at all, Zach. You're good.
Okay, Zoom is doing its thing. So I'm gonna pretend like there's not a leaf blower around me. The so that's the focus of here is to get the word out. How that you've made that we're making progress in this specific experience is you can restate what this initiative's about. You can ask some probing questions, and you have clarity on where next steps would be with regard to feedback and partnership. So would love to use the chat, or I know we're small, if folks have any questions that are immediate. Love to hear them now, just so I can tailor the presentation to the needs of the community in front of me. And if not, then I can move forward as well. So I'll hear if anybody has anything that would be especially helpful to cover today. All right, just letting the awkward silence permeate for another second. All right, well, let's keep moving. Questions are welcome, and we'll move through. So please do, Lori, throw a flag if it gets loud. Can you hear anything right
No,
now?
it's good. It's absolutely
Okay,
good. I'll let you know
I'm
if you
gonna
get muddled.
I'll trust the process.
Just your own
This,
sensory input. You're good.
the scope, exactly it. The scope of this work. So I'll try not to yell at everyone because I don't have to. So the goal of this is really to provide students with disabilities with LEA is supporting students with disabilities in this initiative with resources, coursework, performance tasks, and the like that allow for students with disabilities to have alternative means of expression when meeting prescribed courses of study needed to graduate. And when we talk about graduation for this work, we're talking about the standard diploma requirements, the standard diploma. We are not talking about an alternative pathway to a diploma. We're not talking about those movements within the state that are already in place, those good movements to give students eligible for CAW different ways for them to meet different diploma-based requirements. But that's been something we've really had to underscore as important this whole time, is that this project is not the alternate pathway to a diploma. It is something different than that. Just pausing for a second to see if any questions come up there. You can see the legislative priority is SB 154 and SB 102. And yeah, so that's where that's coming from. All right, so here we go. It is bananas around me, but I'm good. So here's the data for why students with disabilities. We're really looking at graduation rates right now and how there's inequitable outcomes for students with disabilities, where you can see graduation rates for all students and then students with disabilities. So just going to let that one kind of lay out there. That's the why behind the focus exclusively for the student population. So here's another visual of the challenge. And that visual shows that students with an IEP have a myriad of different supplementary aids and services and accommodations that are supporting their ability to access. The challenge, though, is that they oftentimes go into classrooms where those flexible supports aren't inherent. They're not things that that environment or that design has been built upon. And so what we're trying to do is straddle the line between both how do we document students' needs related to their IEP? And I can see some of the folks even in this room are involved in some of those conversations. And then how do we work with those writers of the frameworks, Seaford, State Board of Education, to make it clear that alternative means of expression are a viable form of assessment in core instruction. And so that's what we've done on the other side of this initiative, is work and partner with those groups to make it clear that this can be a part of core. And when we're talking about students with IEPs and it being defined on their IEP, must be a part of core instruction. And so that is a really important cornerstone. This graphic we're trying to remove that red kind of options graphic there so that it's more common and the infrastructure is there for options to be more readily available for all students, but especially for this initiative, students with disabilities. So this lays out what we've done thus far. We've done in year one, we did a literature review. We carried out a national survey of state special education directors. We conducted interviews with key state leads. We surveyed California educators statewide, some of which might be in this room. We then conducted interviews with key district leads, and we engaged in focus groups. So all of that was what we did in year one, to think about what is the strategy that we see as working for California. And then in year two, we proposed a strategy to the State Board of Education and CDE regarding what to do about the infrastructure for these students. And that leads to the Inclusive Access to a Diploma, Reimagining Proficiency for Students with Disabilities initiative. That is the work that we now are seeking public comment on to get a sense of, is this making sense? Do we see this as a viable strategy for giving kids with disabilities different ways to show what they know? And we've created a series of resources related to content areas to be used as example supports. This is our conceptual framework that we've created to help explain the initiative. We see the pinnacle of that mountain, that golden peak there of the mountain that's earning a diploma. Again, this is the standard diploma, not just for kids eligible for CAW, but for any student in the state of California. The focus again is for students with disabilities, putting this infrastructure in place for that standard requirement. And then you can see those routes up the mountain being different ways for our students to show what they know. We've created content-specific practice briefs, performance tasks, and tools that then reinforce the resources that we've created and that I'll show you in a second in the interactive website that we are looking to have as many constituents as possible go through and review. So again, I'm just going to pause for a second. Any questions in this space as you look at the conceptual framework, what we're trying to do, what's coming up for the group?
Hi, this is Shamron. I do have some questions as I've gone through and looked at the content and the material. It's really exciting to see. One of the questions that comes to my mind as I look at this is how much this is a viable option for all students, not just students with disabilities. And I'm wondering about, I guess my mind goes to somewhat kind of the language of how this is being shared or the marketing component of it. Because I would hate for this great opportunity with all of these tools to only be directed towards or used for only students with disabilities while they would benefit from it. I see implications for this for lots of students, not just those with IEPs or 504 plans. Do you foresee it being really strongly attached to having to have those two legal documents in place, or do you see this being able to be more widespread and widely used?
Yeah, great question, Shamron. So the short is because the legislative priority, SB 154 and 121, were tied to students with disabilities, within the scope of this initiative, right, we have to make it clear that this is a strategy or priority for students with disabilities first, or like a focal point of the initiative. The frame that we've been continually saying is, because these are the regular requirements, there is not a reason why a district or region couldn't apply this strategy to any population. And because in Ed Code, it is clear that alternative means, which is the word that we've intentionally chosen to use, alternative means, including the practical demonstration of skills, shall be made available to students in California. It can and should be something that could be built in for all students. It just becomes up to a local decision and a local adoption how that gets played out. So it is a line that for the initiative we have to straddle, where again, the data being the way it is for students with disabilities, the legislature and the state board setting the priority, we have to in the initiative make it clear we are unapologetically saying we need to do something different for students with disabilities. And at the same breath, we're trying to really reinforce this doesn't have to end there, nor do we think it should. So the idea that even providing different ways for students to show what they know, if that resulted in students being in a different place, that would not be what we're after with this initiative. We're thinking about, hey, within core instruction, how might we increase the partnership between special education and general education so that a student's IEP defined supports and services have the ability to be applied truly within core instruction. And so core instruction has the infrastructure that's ready for that degree of flexibility. And so long-winded answer, but it is a bit of a line that we have to walk candidly, that I've need to walk, knowing where the dollars and the priority has come from. That's also why we haven't explicitly said, well, there's lots of reasons, but we haven't explicitly said this instructional framework, PBL is what you should deploy, or UDL, or culturally responsive instructional practices. Though we see those as really important design elements, really it's up to the local local communities to define the instructional initiatives and assessment practices they use, we've tried to stay rooted in here are the coursework requirements per the standards and frameworks. Here is the assessment model that we're arguing for or kind of laying out. You at the local level define how this gets applied. Does that help, Shamron, or does it? Happy to. This is a really important conversation.
Sort of. I just don't want this to be a missed opportunity so that it is only being communicated and only lives within a connection to students with disabilities. Because as I'm going through this, like, this is something for every student. And yes, because of the legislation and because where this is coming from and because of the need, 1,000,000,000%, yes, we're elevating the experience of students with disabilities. But I mean, I can think off the top of my head of, 10, 12 learners that I know personally that do not have an IEP or a 504 plan, that this would be a life changer for them. And I think about students that are in alternative high school settings and things of that nature. And I as this moves forward, I'm really excited about it. I want to be mindful of, yes, elevating our students with disabilities, but also remembering that they are general education students first, and that whole concept of necessary for some, good for all. I want to make sure that we're also applying it within this context, because you don't necessarily need an IEP or a 504 plan to have an alternative means of expressing what you know in an assessment. So I guess this might be looking a lot further down the road, but having worked with different schools and districts and understanding kind of the framing, I would want lots of people to know about this, not just those that are working with our students with disabilities.
Yeah, point well taken. And it is something like we all take that feedback back as I interact with the CDE and CDE partners meetings. As the, contractor and within the scope of work, I kind of I have some control, and then I have, less control in other places. But for sure, that's the type of feedback that we would definitely like. That's exactly what we need. We need to bring that back and lay it out. So I appreciate you bringing it in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about our county offices and how we kind of disperse and share and distribute information, especially something like this. This is really valuable and has so much potential. I'm thinking about how we want to spin it. And it's not going, like, my hope would be that it's not just to our SPED directors and it's not just for ed specialists. Like, everybody needs to know about this.
Totally. And that we'll keep moving, but that is so our starting place was Seaford and their sponsorship, and then they gave us kind of sub-sponsor to even who we worked with. So we've only worked with folks writing the frameworks or connected to the frameworks. SISC has been our primary, I just spent the day with them last week. We presented twice now. So we're trying the curriculum and instructional, I forgot what SISC stands for. This is, also new, but they're basically in charge of the curriculum frameworks for the
The
state.
Curriculum Instruction Steering Committee?
Yes, that's SISC, that very one. So we are trying to go where the general space is, but it's great feedback, and we'll keep bringing that feedback through. All right. Well, this is great. I mean, this has been the best way we do these presentations, is just pausing, asking questions. So please continue to do it. In terms of where we pulled courses as our exemplar sets of courses, because of the budget, timeline, general scope, we couldn't do all requirements as exemplars. So we pulled from those requirements, starting with the state minimums. But we pulled courses that had high degree of generalizable connection to other like A through G diploma. For example, Algebra 1, Integrated 1, that's going to have application across multiple different unit requirements or diploma tracks. And so we tried to pull from those courses, starting with the ones that were the highest flyers from our initial year of exploring, where Algebra 1, Integrated 1, that was bar none the course that many people listed as a primary kind of gatekeeper for students oftentimes graduating. And so we tried to move from those requirements first. We have since pulled English course, science course, history and social science course, art or VAPA course, and then physical education also. So we're going to provide a suite of resources for folks to pull from and hopefully connect to. So, oh, and the leaf blowing stopped. So I'm here, everybody. I can think. The the way we've structured the design of this, and we've borrowed from the math framework and this concept of the big idea. So a course having a series of big ideas that represent the mindset, competencies, and skills needed for proficiency within a course. That frame is really sticky, and it's really sticky in a lot of different venues, but especially the general education side of each content area. That's becoming more and more of a thing in the state. And this idea of teaching standards in context with each other, having standards being more used as success criteria to a greater big idea, we really ran with that as the way for this to be manageable. So meaning rather than having every standard be what we provide alternative means of expression for, that's fine, we can do that. But really honing down to, for this course, there are the 5 big ideas that represent proficiency in this course. And these 5 big ideas are what we need to give students alternative means of expression around in order that they can meet the requirement. And then from here, once the requirement becomes clear, then we provide those different examples that the field could adopt or could not of alternative means of expression that a student could deploy. So much of the work was built around performance tasks because that's a very big priority within the state of California, having performance tasks be a more common medium for assessments for a myriad of reasons, chiefly of which is they align well to this idea of applied knowledge. But they also put a real world spin on concepts that is very beneficial for a myriad of populations, to Shamron's point, but especially students with disabilities. We've also, when we're thinking about alternative means of expression and those roots up the mountain, we frame this as there's horizontal alternative means of expression, meaning we can give students a performance task, a project, a portfolio type assessment, or even a traditional test that all could be deemed a viable way for them to show what they know. And then we have, so that's a horizontal view. We also are kind of perpetuating or kind of framing that you can have a vertical view of alternative means of expression, meaning the tools that a student deploys within a performance task in order that they could show what they know in that task. So we need to, as long as it doesn't sacrifice the rigor, we need to welcome speech to text, the use of manipulatives, multimedia tools, physical tools being built into our assessments. And it also is nice to dovetail this with universal tools, designated supports, accommodations that our statewide assessment is perpetuating as the supports or a set of accessibility resources that can be made available for students. So we're trying to model that here. From this, we have a series of guidance resources that we've created, a best practice guide that gives basically a handbook for how to do this across any content area. We have practice briefs that are very specific to a population. So we have a practice brief for board members for how to adopt this into board policy. We have a practice brief for math teachers for how to apply this assessment model in their mathematics instruction. We have 5 practice briefs for math teachers. We have and so on. And one for IEP team members that we're revising right now because we're in public comment, and we're realizing we need to probably parse out the difference between the guidance that comes out on the IEP and the IEP team conversations and where it gets documented, and then the way in which we do unit planning based around what's written in the IEP. And so even now we're revising and rethinking some of our initial strategies based around what we're hearing from the public. So here is a timeline for release of the other materials. So math is live right now, and it'll go through the end of October. Science will drop next week on the website and be available through the end of December. History and social sciences, VAPA, ELA, and ELD will be available November through January. And then physical education is going to be January and February. So those resources will live in the website in those slots. And we've created an interactive website again to be, we have multiple ways to give feedback. The website is kind of our tier one. Anybody can just share the link and explore and click and comment. Town halls are another tier where you can join us and we'll talk with you and we'll do a facilitated conversation. And then things like this, where we can meet with as many constituencies in the state of California as possible and just lay things out and get feedback real time. So Shamron, I see your hand.
Yeah, thank you again. I have been in there in the website, and when I'm trying to make comments or feedback, the drop-down menu for the role of participants is rather limited. And I'm wondering if you might expand that or have an opportunity to put other, or folks that might have multiple roles, for example, like I'm a county office administrator, but I'm also a parent of a student that had an IEP. So I would just encourage some expansion or some other options for that
I like that.
component.
We've added the other kind of space, and I'll show everybody what we mean right now soon. But we've added the other frame so folks can tag and we can see, okay, what are others? But I like the idea of a checkbox model where it's like check all that apply because of, you know, kind of the intersectional nature of how we as humans are. We're going to kind of have multiple boxes that we check in terms of influence. So, so yeah, I'm not opposed to that. I definitely will talk to see what we can come up with. The original group was who we were contracted and kind of within the scope of work, it was like named and explicit. These are who you shall interact with. But now the other group, the other kind of box we found to be helpful because folks were asking for it so often. So, but this is a great idea on the checkbox. I'll see what's possible that way. Okay, so I'm just going to take, I know we're getting close on time. I'm just going to take a moment to walk through some of the things on the website in case anyone hasn't been there yet. So you can kind of get a sense of what Shamron and I are just talking about and describing. So if you go to altmeans.org, that's our temporary initiative website. This website, like it says, is temporary, but all the analytics and even the back end code that I don't understand, the web developer code, all of that goes to CDE. And so they're going to be housing these resources on the Caltan website, which is the special education technical assistance repository or website that they've created. And then also it will be housed in the California Educators Together website, which is the general education a space for, you know, instructional initiatives and even learning networks. So that's where this will live. But the way it works is, again, this is just the homepage. We've curated resources based on constituent type. And this is what Shamron's mentioning with regard to the limitation. We were pushed pretty heavily to have it very clear, like these are the groups we are, you know, within your scope of work that you must interact with, which we were happy to do. There was no arguments there. But when you click in, we also, and I've been on this website already today, so it might be not letting me, but normally when you click in, if you do this on your own, you'll see a little pop-up here where it allows you to self-identify. So if you're an administrator or a student or a family member, you click that box and we ask you it only one time and now you're tagged. So we put a little cookie on the experience and we follow you to see where you go. And so we've curated, if you have 15 minutes, here's a space stuff we'd love for you to explore. It's literally the tools at the bottom of the page. If you have 30 minutes, here's where we'd like you to go. And if you have 60 minutes, here's where we'd like you to go. And then for each resource we've created, you'll notice we have these cards, and the cards allow you to directly download the resource. Notice how I've downloaded it. That's the actual draft templates and documents we've created. And then once you've explored it or reviewed it, we have the opportunity, please leave a comment. Let us know, good, not good, things like that. And then we've also created a thumbs up, thumbs down to give that feedback. Globally, we have a space for you to ask a question for anything in the website, offer a suggestion, and then this is just a general guide. I'm going to check the chat real quick to make sure I'm not missing stuff. Oh, perfect. Thanks
Yeah,
for
you're good,
the
Zach.
link help, Lori.
Yep.
Then from here, you can look at a high level of the initiative. And this gives you kind of similar to what I just went through in the presentation, just what that information is at the high level. What's the strategy? What do we mean by a backwards design or backwards planning model to assessment building? These are practice briefs that are specific to high level concepts. So like board policy, things like that, thinking globally about graduation requirements. What are alternative means and why are we using that word? Connecting back to ed code, things like that. The part that we're really excited and also really wanting feedback on is the actual coursework itself. So when you go to the coursework place, this allows you to get into the weeds of the actual requirements per the framework. So you can see I'm in math, science is coming next week, history, social science, ELA, all those will become live as with the cycle or timeline. But for math, it's ready to go. So you can explore Algebra 1. And per the framework, here are the series of big ideas that define proficiency within Algebra 1. Let's go to function investigations. This, again, as much as we could, we just did a copy paste and we cited, of course, but a copy paste of here is the language from the framework defining the big idea and the standards that align to this big idea. Going back to, again, the standards being taught in context. So then in category 1, here's the category, here are the standards. And so, you know, again, as a special education teacher myself, formally, this is what I was looking for. It was less around the options. I can figure that out because I know the kids. I've helped with the IEP process. It was more, I didn't know the requirements. I was sleuthing through item specifications. I was Googling DOK levels. I was trying to work with general education partners. What we need to be clear on is the requirements as much as possible so that then we can curate alternative means of expression that satisfy the requirements but are personalized to the needs of the students. So that's what we do down here. So the peak of the mountain, that golden peak of the mountain here in our graphic, this is the routes. So we've created a performance task set. Might not work for everyone. You know, there's this very beefy content and it's very fresh content. But we provided an example, like this is a performance task that one could use in showing what they know. This is a these are Mars tasks, and these are publicly available Creative Commons tasks that anyone could access. We also, Shamron, to your point, we pulled from the places that math, general education teachers go. This is their community. This is a well-worn path for them. Many of the people know what Mars tasks are. We're saying this Mars task will cover that requirement. And then we've also, for math, not all of them will have 3 options, but for math, because it's such an important area, we've intentionally tried to pull stuff that's a little bit eye-raising, provocative, without, you know, lowercase p, provocative, nothing shady here, but like a card sort. So you print out a series of cards, you lay them on a table, the kids organize the cards so that so that the concepts are represented, and then they communicate their reasoning. This is a viable way, per the folks really connected at a high level to the framework, for a student to show what they know. The scoring guides and resources, again, are all publicly available. We're just curating them so you can see in context this would apply to this big idea. And then lastly, then I'll be done and we'll just talk. The BYOT option is we are also interested in what the field has to say. Again, it's to communicate. The state is not dictating the assessments you use. The state is just laying out what it always does, the framework and the standards. You being locals and those connected to the communities and children, you can share your own ideas with regard to how students might show what they know here. This doesn't become public. This doesn't, put a blast out anywhere, but it is a way for us to, one, communicate that this is flexible and it is a local decision. And two, we are looking at what people share with us to see, okay, is the public making alignment? Are we seeing a through line here where the assessments that they're bringing are aligned to the big ideas that we proposed per the framework? So, yeah, I mean, from here, that's the bulk of it. We have town halls. We're trying to get this website out to as many people as possible. I know I'm networking with some of you all, even on the screen, to help further make the guidance clearer. So it's probably a great spot for me to stop. I'll share all this with Lori. So now at this point, Lori, we and everyone, we have this slideshow is public. The website's public. We have a at a glance that's public, a FAQ that you can use, and we even have now a social media kit where if folks want to have stuff to blast out in social media, CDE is pushing this out, and now so that means anyone can push it out. So.
Well, thank you, Zach, for all of those resources. I'm recording this and we'll be sharing out with anyone who I've been emailing about this. And if you want to send me any of those and I can attach it to my email, like the FAQ I'm thinking or something like that. But I will also be linking our slide deck in there as well, and links to the websites that you've been talking about. So wow. Thank you so much. Any questions in our remaining 4 minutes from the team here, the group? Yes, I agree, Shamron. So exciting. And I just want to thank you, Zach, for making this happen. You went from one thing to another and you persevered through quite the, the challenge of presenting with a leaf blower all around you. I just want to let you all know that this is a monthly, every fourth Thursday. Next month, we will have high quality IEPs, which is very connected to the work that we all do. And I think Jennifer is still on the call, Jennifer Yales, and Heather DeFeedy will be on the call next month talking about all of their great resources around kind of the stages of the IEP journey before, during, and after. And so we can just start to make the connections to their work as well. So Barbara saying very informative. Thank you, Zach and the team. Thank you so much, Zach. I appreciate your work, your expertise, your willingness to share today. And yeah, it's been great.
Thanks for the time. Sorry again about being so distracted, but it was great to be with you all.
We would have never known it, Zach. You pulled it off. Good job.
Gosh. Okay, see you later.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your afternoon.
All right, thank you.